Welcome to the CTE's AI Studio Reflection podcast. In this series, we showcase how faculty are experimenting with artificial intelligence in their teaching and research at SMU. Each episode features a professor sharing their innovation, experience, and takeaways from their projects with the goal to spark ideas, share resources, and encourage experimentation in teaching and research at SMU. So let's get into it. Please introduce yourself, your department, the course if applicable, where you use this AI tool, and how you accomplished your research goal.
All right, so I'm Monnie McGee. I'm an associate professor in the statistics and data science department. I teach a wide variety of courses, mostly upper level undergraduate courses and first year graduate courses. This particular project isn't specific to a course. It's more of a research project, originally starting out as how to AI proof an exam, which led to actually a couple of published results as part of it. But not only was I using AI as a subject, I was using AI to help me do the research as well.
That's awesome. So what area of need prompted you to use AI in your research? Like, what was the thing that was lacking?
Um, I Well, I got my PhD quite a while ago, and there was, of course, computer code back then, but it wasn't the push for reproducibility wasn't as strong as it has been in recent years. So the thing that really pushed me to use AI, well, there's twofold actually. One is I was exploring an area of research that is not my main area, and that's text analytics. I didn't know the tools. I didn't know exactly how um, uh, to clean the text. There's a lot of different things that go into creating a corpus of text that you can actually analyze. I didn't know how to do that. So I used AI to help me with cleaning and massaging the text into a place where it could be used for data. And the other thing is this reproducibility aspect where I wanted to have my code to be able to be run by anyone. And that's not something that I really have a lot of experience doing. So I used AI to help me create modular script that can be run end to end so that somebody could use what I have done if they had their own text to look at.
And how did you decide which AI tools to use?
Um, I mean, real honestly, the main reason I use ChatGPT, and the main reason I did was because it's kind of the first one I got introduced to. But also that's what SMU uses. Their SMU business has a ChatGPT workspace, and that workspace is the information in the workspace is not used to train the model, which was important to me as I'm doing research. I don't want my research being used to train a model for many reasons, and one of which is that my research could be wrong. So I don't want the model to be misled by something that I'm doing incorrectly. But also, I don't want anyone to scoop what I'm doing. Similarly, so I just felt that that was the best place to use it. But of course, sometimes I use Gemini and sometimes I use Claude as well, and mainly again because those were the ones that were the most accessible.
And how did the process of working with AI go? Like, what was your process?
So my process is to type in what I want it
Mhm.
to do and be as explicit and detailed as I can in that prompt. That's something I've learned over time is, you can't just say, create a graph with these data. You have to say, I want a scatter plot. I want this on the x-axis, this on the y-axis. And I'd be very clear about what I want and then allow it. And then instead of taking its answer, I ask it to produce code. And I take that code and I put it into R. So I use R. I could use Python just as easily, I suppose, because, I'm not doing the coding. It's the AI that's doing the coding. I run that code and I look at the output and I see if there's something I want to tweak. If it's something that I can do, I do it in the code. If it's not something that I can do, I ask the AI, hey, I want to make this red, or I want to do something else with this. And I use that not only for uh, my actual research code for the analysis part, but I also used that similarly for presentations and papers. to help me with code that creates a paper or a good presentation.
How long did it take you to get a product or an end result that worked well?
So it depends on where you're starting from. I mean, the data gathering piece took a little while, but that's not something that I did necessarily with AI. That was a Python script on the HPC to gather data. But I don't use it. So bottom line, that kind of goes back to the use. I don't use AI for gathering data. I usually
Mhm.
have the data or I gather it some other way. Um, I have used AI to give me code to scrape data from the internet, because that's, again, not something that I'm terribly familiar with doing. Um, but the process from end to end, I think I started this particular project in September or maybe even about this time last year of 20, sometime in May to August of 2025. And I finally submitted the paper for this in July. So about a year of going back and forth. But of course, I'm not working on this every single day, 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
So
And what surprised you most in working with AI for the project? For the project?
I was actually kind of surprised about how good it is,
Mm.
at least
Tell me
with
more.
code.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very good with code. It, most of the code that it gave me ran the first time. Sometimes it didn't produce what it said it would produce, and I had to go back and figure that out. It's actually very good at debugging itself. I was surprised at how quickly I could get a result for an area that I had even no idea how to start. Um, and that, it's just, it's very fast and it can give me, I mean, if you're talking about time for the research project, I think, I said this took a year from conception to publication, but um, if I had not had AI, well, first of all, I wouldn't be doing the project because the project was all about AI. But I think with the coding aspect, it'd probably still be trying to code the very first piece of this because
Mhm.
it just really shrank the time that I needed for the analysis piece. So
Makes
I
sense.
was, yeah.
So the AI worked well to create code. What was something that maybe did not work so well?
I don't think it works very well sometimes with presentations. I ask it to produce LaTeX code to give me a presentation, and it does that, but it doesn't do it in a way that I guess that fits. Sometimes I don't know how to say it. It fits my style or makes it really easy to explain. So I actually find myself practicing a lot when I ask AI to generate a presentation from some analysis that I've done, because I don't think sometimes it doesn't put things in the right order, or sometimes it's just not explicit enough, or sometimes it's too explicit. Like you need to make sure that it you can't give it all the detail because you only have 15 minutes for the presentation. So things like that. It's not, and also sometimes it doesn't take direction very well. Like I ask it to do to put text in a bubble over here, or do that, and it will give you something, but it usually takes some tweaking to do
And
that.
how do you correct those kinds of issues when you run into them?
If I know how to correct it myself, if I can figure out where in the code that issue is, then I do it. If I can't do that within about 5 minutes, then I ask the AI. It's like, no, I really want that a little bit more to the right. How do I do that? Um, and so it will usually tell me, and then by that time I figured it out and I can tweak it a little bit on my own. But it actually is pretty surprising that how well it debugs itself.
Hmm, that's cool. And how did your collaboration with AI influence your research? Did it do that? Like as you're working with AI, did you get new ideas or new ways of doing things?
Yeah. And actually, sometimes like the AI will say something, like it'll give me an interpretation, and I'll be like, I'll have a conversation with it, like it's a graduate student, and say, so that's really interesting that you said that. Does that mean that this kind of analysis might work here as well? And we'll have this conversation back and forth about, well, maybe that's a new direction, that's a new idea. And then I try to save that script and start, like, okay, we'll come back to that in a minute. It's really easy to go down the rabbit hole with AI. And that's one thing that's bad about it is that you can get distracted pretty easily. So try to, save those tangents and come back to them later. And actually, I find it very helpful in generating research ideas.
That's awesome. Let's see here. What would you change if you were to work on a similar project in the future, or maybe refine this project? What would you change, or would you do anything different?
I wish things didn't move so quickly. Um, I mentioned the issue about reproducibility of code, and I think my code will be reproducible regardless, but what won't be reproducible are the actual LLMs because things just move so fast. And models disappear, the names change, the interfaces change, the output can change, prompt engineering can change. So documentation is still very important, which and preserving the raw output. That's all very important for reproducibility. So I guess if I could change one thing, I would just wish I could push pause and say, hey, everybody, just stop. Let me catch up.
I agree. And totally, yes, models do disappear. Like
Yeah,
you go
yeah,
now and it's like you have some older models, but not all of them, which it would be cool to have all of them so you could see like a history and progression of all these things. Okay.
yeah.
As we're thinking about the future, where else might you use AI in your research?
I think I'm probably going to be doing more of the same, using it to bounce ideas off of, get code that I'm not comfortable doing, get reproducible code, make sure everything's consistent. Um, I'm actually using it. I'm thinking of ways to use it in class to help students with their research as well. And I'm teaching graduate students in the fall, so that's going to become more important, and maybe helping them start their own, trail of reproducibility that they use for class so that they can get used to doing that. Um, but yeah, I don't see myself using AI any differently than I have been in the past, but I'm not going to limit myself if I find something that might be a different way to look at it.
Yeah, talking about your grad students or the future, what is one piece of advice you'd give colleagues who would like to work with AI in their own research for the first time?
Um, I would tell them to start with something simple that they know the answer to make sure that the AI is not pulling the wool over their eyes.
Mm.
Um, and but also to be creative because the AI can do things that, or at least coding wise, that you not necessarily you can't. So if you can't think of a way to do something, ask the AI and maybe it knows, or maybe it can give you code that will do it. And I guess one of the things too that I've learned from my research is not to confuse fluency with understanding. Um, that's a takeaway from my research, but it's also something that can be used when you're using AI for research. Models, these are extraordinarily good at producing explanations that sound authoritative, but you have to kind of look past the polish and ask whether what the model is telling you is actually real or sound. And you have to be able eventually to explain it yourself. So that's a kind of a word of caution is you can't take everything that AI tells you at face value necessarily. You have to be able to explain it yourself.
I think that's great. And it's something that when I work with my students, I tend to tell them the same thing. I tell them you are absolutely responsible for any output that you use in your work because you are passing this off as your own work. And if you don't know what is happening and you can't tell what sources are fake or not, or numbers are not correct, then you're not learning anything. You're not using this in a way that is useful. Is there anything else you'd like to address before we end that maybe I didn't ask you about your project?
Um, I guess one thing I'd like to talk about is access.
Mm,
In my research, we've we touched on it briefly about how models disappear. But also, we've also found meaningful performance differences across models. And sometimes the more capable models are associated with paid tiers. So if one student has access to an AI system that provides better statistical reasoning, in my case, or better language fluency or whatever field you're in, if a student have access to that as a tutor, then other student then and some students can't afford that, then AI may not be actually leveling the playing field. It may actually be creating a new kind of digital divide. And that's, I think, something that we need to be very cautious of, especially as we're using AI for research and teaching.
Yeah, I do have one last question, which was about your research aim, which was to see if tests can be made that can be AI resistant. Can you tell us the results of that? Can we make any tests that are AI resistant, or is the train is out of the station?
Well, it used to be that if you had an image in your question, I mean, and most of my images are going to be graphics. So it used to be that AI could not read images. That's now no longer the case. Um, it may not necessarily give the correct interpretation of the image. It still can be fooled, but so images make it harder, but they're not something that will make it AI proof. So if you have a question, if you have a series of questions though about the same image, that makes it a little bit harder for the AI because eventually the AI will lose the memory of that first scenario or that first image. And it doesn't have to be an image. It can be a scenario-based question with a written scenario. Um, I think that it makes it's not completely AI proof. These models are getting better at remembering back in time. Um, and students could copy and paste the scenario with every question, but that makes it harder for the student.
Yeah.
So I guess those are my two pieces of advice. But honestly, in my classes, I've gone back to paper and I'm thinking about oral exams for my graduate students because I have a very small class. So I mean, and I think that's becoming more and more common.
I think so too. All right. Thank you so much for sharing your work with AI with us at the CTE's AI Studio for Teaching and Research to explore more faculty projects and practical examples of AI uses at SMU. In terms of teaching and research, visit our online repository at ai-studio.smu.edu. And that is a wrap. Thank you so much, Money.
Okay, thank you.